SportsGrid College Football today, the place to be each and every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, right up till kickoff. It's Donnie Rightside, it's Joe Lisi, it's the SportsGrid Network. This is where you want to be because I'm going to tell you today, Joe, I'm not all that excited about the games, but the excitement between me and this guy right here will keep you involved. The biggest games, the biggest bets, and the biggest players. That's how we do it.
Absolutely. I'll just say this, not as marquee as we had last week, but we have some quality games that'll dictate conference odds, national championship odds. It starts in the battle in Salt Lake. Undefeated Utah, undefeated Texas Tech. A little bit later tonight, the battle of Florida. Can Miami stay unbeaten against Florida? That'll be the big question mark. And then some of the other games. Michigan, Nebraska is pretty intriguing as well. So good action to gamble on. We'll have some fun. We'll have some laughs, and this is what it's all about.
Building up, Joe, to a national champion. And also we're going to talk some Heisman Trophy odds as well. Who's going to be the Heisman Trophy? Could it be from a guy down in South Beach with a big game today in the state of Florida, Miami and Florida? We will get to that in just a little bit, Joe. But we always like to rehash a little bit. I always figure you, like Mr. Oklahoma State out here, Mr. Gundy.
No.
What is going on at Boone Pickens Stadium?
He's lost his fastball. I talked about it yesterday, Donnie. That was a game Oklahoma State had won 10 straight in the series. Last year, they absolutely demolished Tulsa. Alan Bowman had a huge day. He threw for over 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. They covered an 11.5-point line last year. But you look at this matchup. Zane Flores, the starter, inconsistent. They lost their offensive identity. And the defense, ever since Jim Knowles left, hasn't been the same. That's been the problem with Oklahoma State. They were 0-9 within the Big 12 last year. They're now 1-2. Not a good look. They get blown out by Oregon, get blown out basically as an 11.5-point dog. They closed it at 9.5 yesterday. You lose at home, you can't have that.
Well, Ollie Gordon did score on Thursday night, Joe, so there's that. Maybe
I hit
saving
that.
grace.
I hit that.
There you go.
Touchdown jackpot.
Cash pot jackpot. Well, let's get to some of the biggest action of today, Joe. And we start right here in Utah. Texas Tech versus Utah, setting the stage for this one. 4.5, Joe, was the favorite here for Utah at the opening number. That's dropped now down to 3.5 across the board. The total opened up at 60.5, Joe. Now we see 57.5 points. So I'm going to start here with this question mark. Both of these teams, not a lot of great competition to start the season. How do we see this play out? And we'll start with the side itself, Joe. 3.5-point favorite, Utah.
Yeah, typically Texas Tech struggles as a road team. Over the past 4 years, they're just 12-14 straight up on the road or on a neutral field site. But Joey McGuire, this team overall, Donnie, have put a lot into NIL. They put a lot into the transfer portal. They revamped their defensive secondary. And I still believe they have the better passing attack heading into this matchup. Baron Morton completing 72% of his passes, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. We know Devin Dampier, the transfer from New Mexico, has stepped up. Utah, very physical rushing attack. They pounded for 290 on the ground, but the balance to me happens to be Texas Tech, 387 through the air, 215 on the ground, and their secondary completely changed. I think they're a little bit more complete, have a little bit more speed. I think it could be a track meet, but I'm taking the points with Tech.
Now, let me ask you about this game, too, Joe, because when I look at this and try to break it down, like, let's just say Michigan is going to have a tough game at Nebraska today, but Michigan's already been on the road to OU, so you can say to yourself, okay, I see them in a battle-tested environment. They shouldn't have those big, bright lights environment here. When I look at this game, and I'm not saying the game is going to be too big for either one of these teams. That's not what I'm saying. But the first 3 games, underwhelming for each one of these teams. Now you're in this step up where it's like, hey, the lights are bright, top 20 team, battle it on. Who actually gets the favored side for, like, who should be more prepared? Is it just the home team, Joe?
Well, you would think, I mean, for years under Kyle Whittingham, Utah's been a dominant home team. You know, you could go back. Prior to last year, Donnie, they were like 18-1 over the previous 3 seasons at home. They very rarely would they lose in Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake. But last year they had 4 home losses. So you look at overall, they're 20-5 over the past 4 or 5 seasons. But again, it still comes down to the offense and defensive identities. Typically, Utah struggles with speed teams that could stretch them and then throw over the top. That's the way Baron Morton and this offense are equipped. And when you look at the defense for Texas Tech, Donnie, last year, one of the worst pass secondaries in all of college football. They allowed 308 passing yards per game. They cut it down to 189 this year, holding opposing quarterbacks to 51% completion percentage. To me, that's the difference. If this game goes back and forth, I'd rather have Baron Morton and the Texas Tech offense than Utah in Salt Lake. So give me the points with Tech. I think they win it outright.
Weather conditions today, Joe, 66 degrees at kickoff, 70 to 73 by the time the game is over. Light winds, no precipitation in the forecast, which we absolutely love. Now, talk to me about this. Both of these teams are known for offense, Joe. 60.5 was an opening number at the FanDuel Sportsbook. They've dropped that to 57.5. Why are we seeing a buyback in that market
Well, I
here?
just think when you look at Utah, they want to control the clock, even though they can put up points. They're averaging well over 40 points per game. But, again, the mentality is going to be we want to control the clock, keep Morton on the sidelines, and limit possessions, right? We want to dictate the tempo. They're averaging, to what I said, 290 on the ground, 227 through the air. Have one of the best third-down offenses, Donnie, in all of college football. 71% conversion rate right behind Arkansas. That's 2 out of 134 teams. So that's why I think you're starting to see that. Plus, we think Utah, we think physicality. They're only giving up 90 rushing yards per game, 134 in the back end. They're opportunistic as well, force 4 interceptions. So I just think the perception is if Utah's going to win this game, lower scoring, will lay it, and we'll get under the 60.5. If you're back in Tech, you want to push tempo and get into a track meet.
You know, most people know the blue blood programs here in NCAA football, Joe. Of course, you've watched a lot of football yourself. Devin Dampier, a quarterback here, 628 yards passing on the season, but also 198 yards on the ground as well. So a quarterback that's very fluent in passing and also can move the sticks with his legs, Joe. How does that play out today? And also, tell me about his chances to possibly win the Heisman Trophy also.
Yes, so he's having a fantastic year right now, right? 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's averaging well over 4 yards per carry, could take games over. He's a big guy, almost like a Cam Newton type of player, right? Physical in terms of body stature. I think he could be a factor in this matchup. Again, if the rushing attack is there for Utah and they're starting to control the clock and converting early on third downs, could be a long day for Texas Tech. They typically struggle with teams that play bully ball. So that is going to be the matchup and the contrast in styles. But if we're looking Dampier, big picture, right? Going up against Carson Beck. Still going up against the likes of maybe, Gunnar Stockton from now Georgia and Nussmeier and some of the flashier names, Arch, if they get back.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to be basically undefeated, make the college football playoff, which if they win the Big 12, they can do, but he's not a household name. He's really going to have to put up dynamic numbers to overshadow Arch and some of the other guys that could get back into this. And on top of that, have to be undefeated or at least in the college football playoff mix.
Now, you know me, Joe. I love the bag on Notre Dame. I think their schedule's ridiculous after the first 2 games they have. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But as I start to move and say to myself, all right, well, look at these teams that you're going to have Utah playing after this game, Joe. You have UCLA in game number 1. Easy win. Cal Poly, come on, was the statisticians playing in that game as opposed to players? Wyoming, 31-6. You got Texas Tech today. That game's at home, Joe. After this, unranked West Virginia, unranked Arizona State, unranked BYU, unranked Colorado, unranked Cincinnati, unranked Baylor, unranked Kansas State, unranked Kansas.
Yeah.
He can run this up.
He can run it up. Now, West Virginia's a hot team. They play Kansas today. They did knock off Pitt as basically an underdog at home. Can they get back-to-back wins, especially on the road? If they do, not going to be easy. They might be in the top 25 based off the body of work. But to your point, when you don't have ranked opponents, he can rack up numbers. But then if you put, let's say, Devin Dampier up against the likes of Sawyer Robertson from Baylor, that now has a game against Auburn and threw for 400, has a win against SMU, threw for 400, plays Arizona State, he's second in FBS. I would much rather take a shot on Sawyer Robertson because I think they have a better shot potentially to win the Big 12. But Dampier will be critical for Utah to get the win tonight.
And by the way, we're going to spend a little bit more time on the Texas Tech Raiders here because you're looking at Morton, 11 touchdown passes on the season, 923 yards through those 3 games. Competition wasn't great.
Right.
Those are still great statistics to put up at this point right now. So a lot more information to come. This is what we do on a Saturday. Keep it hype. Get you ready for kickoff. Don't you change that dial. We'll be right back.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. The Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
SportsGrid College football today on a Saturday right here on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie Rightside along with Joe Lisi here. The fun never ends here, Joe. We're going to get to that Miami game in just a moment. But again, football is fun. What movie was that from? Football's not fun. Football is fun. What movie?
Friday Night Lights?
No, come on now.
What?
Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans. Oh,
yeah,
no,
I like
it.
It was a good movie,
Come
but
on.
I mean, give me the program or give me some of the other ones. I mean,
That's pretty good. All the right moves.
Yeah,
all the right moves, Tom Cruise.
Georgievich.
Georgievich, all that. By the way, talking about Stefan Georgievich, that's not Morton today. This kid can throw the football, Joe. 11 touchdown passes, 923. Just wanted to put a cap on that game in hour number one. Expectations for the Texas Tech offense.
I took them 300-plus today. Yeah. So, again, they're averaging 387. If you believe that Utah could slow it down and win this game and grind it out, take Utah on the under. I'm taking the other way. I'm taking Texas Tech. I'm taking their playmakers. I think they could throw over the top. That means a big day for Morton. Put it this way, in big games, Morton has struggled in his career. He's been turnover prone. This year he's playing very clean, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. Again, this is a big step up in test, but I'm going to buy into this offense. And again, I think it's light, 300-plus, just because of the Utah defense. We think physicality. We think, very disciplined with Kyle Whittingham. I'm taking him to break out today.
How about this, though, Joe? You think physicality. You think wisdom. You think a dominant head coach. You think of Miami Hurricanes, baby. On the field tonight, and if Brent Musburger was still calling these games, you were looking live at Hard Rock Stadium for an absolute banger game tonight. Look at the picture, Joe. That's me. The thumbs up, Sebastian Ivis. We're boys, and away we go tonight. Setting the table for this game, Joe. 7.5-point favorite for the Canes. Florida, back-to-back losses. Billy Napier on life support. Mario throws the knockout punch tonight. How about it?
They might win, but they're not going to cover. 7.5. This line opened up. I had Miami as high as 9.5. I think we got there Thursday night. They brought it back down to 7.5 in this matchup. They have won 8 of the last 10. Yeah. They dominated last year. Week 1, great call by you with Cam Ward laying 1.5 points. They just dominated that matchup.
Beautiful.
But in order for Florida to win this game, now this is a tall order. Back-to-back road games, even though it's in state, they played well from a defensive perspective against LSU. But when DJ Lagway throws for 287 yards, 1 touchdown, but 5 interceptions, a pick 6 changes the whole complexity. it's a tall order. But I still believe in this spot with their backs against the wall, Florida has enough playmakers in a rivalry game to at least cover the 7.5. Not going to be easy. Miami's playing lights out. They're giving up less than 100 rushing yards per game, less than 3 yards per carry on the ground. They've been opportunistic. Carson Beck and that offense are averaging 306 passing yards per game. They're pounding the rock for $179 on the ground. But give me the rivalry. Everybody thought USF was the rivalry with the points. It was just a tough matchup for USF after those 2 emotional wins. Give me the points with Florida. I don't know if they win it outright, but I think you'll get a much better effort, and they'll be within the number today.
You know, I get some vibes from this game, Joe. If you can equate, and I know you can't a lot to the college football game to the NFL game, but you take a look and say to yourself, all right, look at this. You know, for Thursday Night Football, about to throw the knockout punch to the Buffalo Bills, and if that doesn't work out, maybe McDaniel gets fired. They played well. They were in it to the end. They almost won that football game. They're not moral victories, but I can see Florida tonight hanging around in the fourth quarter with a chance to win this football game. It's not that outlandish. It's not 18.5 as a spread, but Joe is right. We had this up as high as 9.5 this week, buying it back down to 7.5. But here's what I want to ask you, Joe. DJ Lagway came in with a lot of hype this year. Could be a possibly Heisman Trophy. We even talked before the season. Boy, what about that game where he's going to take on, LSU against Nussmeier and then go play Miami? They come out 4-0 to open their season. He might be the Heisman Trophy favorite, and he's not right now. 5 interceptions last week. And on the show, one of my better bets was team total under 19.5 for the Florida Gators. They didn't sniff that. He threw 5 picks. How does he come back today?
Well, again, I think they have to utilize his versatility. They have to utilize his athleticism. And again, they can't put him into long third down situations. That's what LSU did. The lack of the rushing attack was there, and DJ Lagway had to force plays up against that secondary. In this matchup, though, their best recipe in offense could be their defense. I will say the one thing about Florida is that you cannot run on them. They're only giving up 82 rushing yards per game. So if they could force Carson back into long third downs, we know that Miami's offensive line is held up. If they could get quarterback pressures and get off the field on third down, short field for Lagway, they can control the tempo. If this starts, Donnie, to all of a sudden be Miami 14-0 first half, Miami's going to cover. It's going to be an over in Florida. Napier might make it back to Gainesville because they're a one-trick pony. They need a lower scoring game right now. Keep it methodical, and I think they could do it. Rivalry type of game. Again, this might be an opportunity to take Lagway on the ground, anytime touchdown, and maybe, just maybe, we take him for one passing touchdown, but expecting them to throw for 287 plus and multiple touchdowns up against this secondary going to be difficult.
I do think Lagway has to have a comeback game, and if just trying to play this out where Miami wins the football game and Florida's trying to fight back, I do like Lagway's passing yards to the over because I always bounce back performance is terrible last week. That doesn't mean Billy Napier's going, okay, kid, we're going to throw 13 times and run it on the ground to see if we can beat the Miami Hurricanes, which if we flip it over to Miami Hurricanes here, you take a look at Carson Beck at quarterback. This was a guy with a lot of hype coming over from Georgia, but he had the injury last year, a new season, new team here. How's it going to equate to his teammates? It looks pretty good so far, Joe. You see that graphic, 812 yards passing, 8 total touchdowns here, only 2 interceptions. And right now, if the season ended today and you just gave away trophies based on the odds market, he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. Talk about it.
Well, when you knock off Notre Dame and you play clean with the football, that week 1 marquee performance on Labor Day weekend, that holds a lot of weight, right? And then you knock off a media darling in USF that had back-to-back wins. All of a sudden now you're starting to be that guy. The more that you step up in these top 10, top 25 games and put up dynamic numbers and don't turn the football over, you're going to be there. The fact that he's completed 79% of his passes, Donnie, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. We don't need a 350-yard performance today. But if he goes out and he throws for 225, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, the consistency, and as long as Miami wins, they're going to be there. I will say, though, it comes down, I believe. They're going to have, we know Miami could stretch them over the top. Can they run on them? If Miami can run on the front 7 of Florida, they're going to cover this number. I think that's where this matchup goes, and that's where I think Florida has a shot to cover this 7.5-point underdog.
Yeah, ESPN Game Day is down there for this game. It's not the greatest game if you just look record-wise here, but certainly from a talent perspective in the state of Florida, it's going to be a good one. And also, Joe, as we always like to point out, when you play big football games and you're a Heisman Trophy candidate where all the eyes are on you and you have a great game, that's certainly going to bolster your competition and also bolster your price where instead of getting plus 750, maybe down to plus 650, plus 500, and away you go into the season. The total in this game opened up at 51.5. It's dropped to 50.5 points. As soon as we get back from the break, I'm going to get Joe Lisi's opinion on how he thinks this game is going to operate. High tempo early, high scoring early, or teams starting to feel each other out. And then we'll get to a battle in the SEC. It's college football. It's the SportsGrid Network. It's a marriage made in heaven. We'll be right back.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had marquee wins at some point
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, college football today. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi here, wrapping up this hour number 1 Miami Hurricanes versus Florida Gators game. I just want to get Joe's opinion on one thing before we get there. The weather conditions always an issue typically in Miami. Chance of passing showers always is there. 83 degrees, muggy at opening kickoff. But it's the Florida Gators, Joe. They're used to this as well, right?
Yeah, it's not going to wear them down. And USF wasn't really, the humidity didn't affect them. The fact that Miami punched them in the mouth is what really transpired last week. Now, they did have about an hour and 10-minute delay. That always hurts when you're betting totals, but they flew through it last week. I think when you look at this total, 50.5, I just think that Florida right now, Donnie, struggling so much from an offensive perspective, you don't want to get into a track meet with Carson Beck. I would much rather more of a balanced offensive attack. Let's trend to the under and try to steal it 21-17. Again, you don't want to get Miami confident, jumping up 14-0, double digits. It could be put a lot of pressure on Lagway and put a lot of pressure on this defense.
Big game for Mario Cristobal here. See if that Miami team can move to 4-0 with a lot of bragging rights in the state of Florida, because they can be that state champion. You beat USF, you beat Florida, and a chance to beat Florida State. That's some fun times here on the horizon nonetheless. But since when it's been 3-4 segments, Joe, we don't talk any SEC football. We're going to do it right now. How about this one? Auburn and Oklahoma. This line opened up as a 3.5-point favorite for the home team, Oklahoma, Joe. Now we're seeing even 7s listed at DraftKings, and a total only 46.5. Sounds like a Lisi special. It
is. This is one of my favorite plays of the day. Not side, but an actual total. When you look at it now, if you bet this game last year, and I did, the total was 44.5. It went right down to the wire, 24-21. Auburn dictated it right from the get-go, but they had a pick 6 off of Peyton Thorne, Oklahoma did change the whole complexity of the game in the second half, and Michael Hawkins, the former starter, stepped up with a big play over the top to allow them to pull that victory out. It's a much different offense. Jackson Arnold comes back to Oklahoma. Yeah. Can he throw the football, Donnie, over this secondary that's only given up for Oklahoma 84 passing yards per game? They're holding opposing quarterbacks to 46% completion percentage, no touchdowns allowed, and that's going to be the matchup. Can Auburn run it and throw it and stay in manageable third downs? They're converting 52% on third down conversions. It's a tall order because Jackson Arnold in big games last year was a deer in the headlights. Yeah. He got pulled against Tennessee, struggled against Ole Miss last year. I understand he's more mature, but he's going on the road. I like the better defense. I like the more mature quarterback. I lean to Oklahoma and Mateer, but I love the over. 46.5. I think Mateer and the offense push tempo. I think that defense could force turnovers. I think we can get in the 50s today. So I lean to Oklahoma, but best bet in this is over 46.5.
Yeah, I take a look at I love Mateer. Each and every week I'm probably going to be in that market to operate where I'm going to score a touchdown with this kid because he does it every game, and why not? Big games here, you're getting close to the goal line. He's got the legs certainly to punch that in. But talk to me about this, Joe. I thought you brought up a good point. You're going on the road. Sometimes your best friend is a tight end over the middle, or how about just a running game? Cobb here for Auburn, Joe. 314 rushing yards in the season, 46 carries, and 4 touchdowns. Talk to me how they need to crank up that ground game to take that pressure off Arnold.
So it's a different ground game this year, right? Yeah. Last year, Peyton Thorne was just a prototypical drop-back passer. You didn't utilize his legs in the RPO game. Jackson Arnold has shown the ability to get on the edge, sort of like the old quarterbacks for Auburn. Nick Marshall, Cam Newton, when they had success with Gus Malzahn back in the day. The problem is that when, this defense for Oklahoma can run sideline to sideline. They need to get Cam Coleman and Singleton, their top 2 playmakers, involved. They've only combined for 23 receptions, Donnie, 3 touchdowns, over 290 receiving yards. Going up against this defense, if they only have pedestrian days, it's going to look similar to what we saw against Michigan. They're going to grind out an 11-point win. You're going to get an Oklahoma cover and the under. I believe Oklahoma pushes tempo, forces turnovers, and that's the difference. But Auburn needs to start fast.
Why the line moves too, Joe? Because we take a look at, and again, just using FanDuel here as a backboard, minus 3.5 now up to 6.5 at FanDuel, and a total 48.5 dropping down to 46.5. Are we expecting this to be more of a ground and pound? Because I'm not seeing any weather conditions that will be a hindrance at this point.
I just think, one, Oklahoma's 3-0 all time against Auburn, and they won this game last year on the road. They have the better quarterback, so that's the 3.5 to the 6.5. Yeah. But the total, I just think when you think about this Oklahoma defense, until they get exploited, the books are still going to tack a number under 50. It might not happen until we get 50s. If this game, let's say, blows through the total, when they face Texas with Arch in October, you might see the 50s on an Oklahoma team then. And think about last week. They put up 42 against Temple, but basically that game trended under as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's interesting, too, is you line these 2 games up where it's usually the Oklahoma game, 55, 60 points at this point, so it is a little bit less. But also when we talked about there that, Heisman Trophy race with Carson Beck is right now driving in the driver's seat. Who's in the passenger seat? Yeah. John Mateer at a 9-1 price here. Big game today. Wins like this go a long way with voters here to sort of add up. 944 passing yards, looking to increase that today. That's what we do in college football today. We get people in the know. We'll be right back after this short break.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had marquee wins at some point
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Oh, yeah, having some fun. Are you having some fun out there? SportsGrid, we have fun. College football today, we have fun. Joe Lisi, he has fun today.
Always.
Even though we're not talking LSU, you can still have fun on the show. Didn't
Yeah,
know
they played
that.
Southeast Louisiana. They got it done in the cover last week. One of the better bets, let's not forget, against Florida and DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
It was a little too close for comfort for me, but they pulled it out.
Now, you know what I like about the Big Ten? I like Ohio State. I like Penn State. I like to talk about Michigan. I don't like to talk about very many teams. But even having said that, you got a big game today, Joe. Look at this. Illinois and Indiana center stage today. Top 20 battle. 52.5 is the total. 6.5 to 7 is a favorite here for Indiana. The big cigarette, as I like to call them, in action today. Come on.
Indiana's won 4 of the last 5. The last time these two teams played were a couple of years ago. Illinois won in OT 48-45. I just think, and it is intriguing. This line is open up at 3.5. We're seeing 6.5s in the market. And just knowing how good Illinois was on their road matchup where they laid 2.5 points against Duke and dominated that matchup and ran and threw it all over that Blue Devil defense, you would think that they would be catching less than 6.5 points in this matchup. But, you know, Indiana under Signetti has played bully ball, and it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, Luke Altmaier or Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
I would lay it. This is a game, let me just say, it's evenly matched. It wouldn't shock me either way if Illinois pulls it out or Indiana. The spread is telling me I would lay it with the Hoosiers. I do believe Mendoza is a little bit better than Altmaier, especially when you just look at the physicality of the defense. I like Indiana's over Illinois. But again, we'll see how this game plays out.
How about total, Joe? You take a look at Altmaier in the season, 709 passing yards. How about this Mendoza? 708 passing yards. 8 touchdowns on one side, 9 on the other. These two teams, Joe, can get up and down the field. And Signetti's one of those guys who I do appreciate, almost like James Franklin. There is no, like, late in the game, let's run the clock out. It's late in the game, let me punch another one in so you remember my name at this point. Is this an over game for you?
I would lean to the over here.
Yeah.
Again, I don't, even if they run the football, you're going to have chunk plays, I believe, at some point. And again, when you just look at the body of work last time they played, I would lean to the over. The 52.5 might be priced just right, but I still think Indiana's the side. I would take a shot on Mendoza in terms of the passing total. We saw Mensa, even in the loss against Illinois, have great success over the top.
Yep.
And I think Mendoza could have 2+ touchdowns in this matchup.
How about that? Look at that. Get some offense up and down the field. The big Sig. Google him, Joe. If they Google you, what do they find? Rap sheet?
Great pictures.
Big rap sheet?
No,
What do
great
they find
pictures.
about you?
AI pictures, right?
Oh, so what type? Yeah, tough seeing. Tough seeing at this point. We could go deeper into that, but we're not going to do that today. On a Saturday, talking college football. Let's keep moving down the line. Michigan, Nebraska, Joe. You know what I like about this game? Michigan went on the road, didn't win at OU, but played in OU in that tough environment. Another tough environment today in Nebraska. 100,000 strong out here. And how about this? Line opened up, Joe. -3.5 favorite towards Michigan. I look now, -1.5, and even some options going to Nebraska as the favorite now, and a total of 47.5. What gives here, Joe?
Well, again, series perspective, and they haven't played since Michigan won the national championship that year with J.J. McCarthy. They beat him up a couple of years ago. But Michigan has won 4 straight in the series. They've won those games by an average margin of victory at 29.5 points per game. You would think that Raiola has the edge over Underwood, right? Underwood made that road performance. He struggled against a very good defense in Oklahoma. Venables outcoached that team and Sharon Moore to really handcuff Bryce Underwood. But we've seen them break out last week against Central Michigan. Now they go back on the road. I like Michigan in this spot. I'm very high on Nebraska big picture. I still think they could be a 9-win football team. A lot of pressure on Nebraska. I didn't like the way they played against Cincinnati week number 1, and I just think Michigan can run the football on them. I like Bryce Underwood's athleticism, his number on the ground, Donnie, 29.5. I altered him as high as 40+. I just think Michigan steps up in this spot, and the fact that we've seen line movement in favor of Nebraska, a lot of people on the Cornhuskers. I'm going to take the other side. I think this is a lower scoring game, but give me Michigan.
By the way, Michigan as a program won a championship. They cheated to get that championship, but I respect it, Joe. A team that you could say, you know what, this team has played in big games and has won a national championship. Growing up for me in the 1980s and the 1990s, Nebraska was everything. Big, strong offensive line, unbelievable, talented option quarterback, dominant running backs here, and a fearsome black shirt defense. That's no longer the case. And, I don't want to say, Nebraska can't ever get back to it, but it just feels fraud might not be the word as a program, but Nebraska could this be their year? Joe, it's never their year. When are they going to get big wins? Today?
Well, it should be. I mean, here's the thing. I think when you look at Matt Rule overall, he takes over. The first year they weren't in a bowl since 2014, since they played Tennessee, right? The Music City Bowl. And he gets them to 5-7. They lost 4 games, less than a touchdown. They were on the cusp. They broke through last year, made it to a bowl, and now in year number 3, this is the year that they're supposed to break out.
Yeah.
I will say when he took over the program, from a physicality perspective, Nebraska was allowing 192 rushing yards per game. And when you think about when we grew up with guys like Mike Minner, Jay Foreman, the Peters brothers, Mike Brown, Ralph Brown.
Thunder Collins.
Right, yeah. D'Angelo Evans, right back in the day, 98. But you would think physicality in run support.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. They got back down to right around 100 yards over the past couple of years. They were physical last year. They didn't give up a lot of yards on the ground. Now, fast forward to this year, they're around $134 on the ground. The secondaries played well. But go back to the game against Cincinnati. Cincinnati was able to move the football. Again, if you look at Bryce Underwood and you look at this Michigan team built to pound the rock between the tackles, this is, I believe, a difficult matchup. That's why I'm laying it. I laid the 1.5, Donnie. I think it's a close game, but give me Underwood. Give me that athleticism and all the pressure on Matt Rule to pull this out.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes Jr. needs to step up in a big game environment. This is one of those big games. Expectations are they're supposed to win and maybe even be a favorite by game time. We'll find out. But also, let's keep it moving. One of the stories of the week I love. Every single week where Clemson loses or has a tough game, Joe, you know what I like to see? Let me go down to Clemson and see what Dabo says. So Dabo stood at a podium and basically was telling us, you don't like this winning? Well, then fire me at this point right now. An angry Dabo Swinney this week has them lined up against Syracuse at home, a 16.5-point favorite to 17.5, depending where you're shopping at, a 54.5. Cade Klubnik and the boys coming into the season, could they win a national championship? Now we're just looking at them. Can they be a 500 team, Joe?
Yeah, it's incredible. It looks like when they lost 4 conference games a couple of years ago and we were answering the questions about Dabo Swinney, did he lose his fastball? I actually like this game, and maybe I can get you in, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, okay. Come on now.
They've won 6 straight, Clemson has, in the series, right? Now, Steve Angeli is the passing leader, just like Kyle McCord. He leads all FBS at 1,083 yards. I said when I looked at this line, 17.5, Clemson has to make a statement, right? I lean to Clemson with the points, but I really like the over, Donnie, because we got to get Cade Klubnik if they have any shot to get back. And Clemson's not dead because they only have 1 conference loss. They run the table, win the ACC. They're going to be exactly where they were last year, potentially an at-large team, but it starts today. They struggled against LSU. They struggled against Troy. They struggled last week in the loss, and all of a sudden now, Cade Klubnik, that threw 36 touchdown passes, hasn't stepped up. I love the total today. I don't know if they cover. I lean to Clemson to cover the 16.5, but I think we blow right through this total with Angeli and Syracuse pushing pace. I think we have points of plenty.
Clemson
Can I get you
it up today? How about this? How about they don't run down and touch Howard's Rock? They don't get on the buses and go to the opposite side. They just come out somber and handle their business. But again, if they lose this game or keep it close, man, I would love to be in that press conference again. They asked Dabo Swinney, why don't you guys win anymore, Joe? I mean, come on now. He's getting upset.
But he did bring success to the program, right?
Absolutely.
I
He's
mean,
a great
2
coach.
national championships. The problem is he didn't buy into the current landscape of college football. It's one thing when you start to see, hey, other teams in the conference are starting to catch us. You lose 4 conference games for the first time since, basically a decade, and all of a sudden now you don't want to take in transfer talent. I will say at home, the mystique at home has sort of tarnished. They have 6 home losses dating back to 2015. 3 have been over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
That can't happen. They need to step up, but that's why I buy into the over tonight.
By the way, there's a long way to go in college football. Teams can certainly make comebacks, Joe, as we've seen here in the advent of you can probably lose 2 games to get back into it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. They play in the ACC, which isn't a great football conference, but you're not beating a lot of SEC, ACC teams right now. That's the issue. Oh, we'll run the table. You haven't even shown the propensity to do that just yet. We'll find out a lot about the Clemson Tigers today, and they bounce back effort. Are they angry? Are they running it up? Or it's like, man, what is Klubnik doing again? You don't want that. But you know what we're doing next year? It's Coach Terry Bowden coming up here. We have a lot of information. He needs to get out to the people. So make sure you stay tuned after the break. Coach Terry on deck.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
They had marquee wins at some point.
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the 3rd and the 4th spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Do it, Coach. Right back here, it's college football today on the SportsGrid Network. No better place to be each and every Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. getting you caught up to kickoff here. It's Donnie Rightside at Show Lisi, one of our favorite segments that we do each and every week. We bring in Coach Terry Bowden to help us out with the college football landscape. Coach, big Saturday. How are we feeling today?
Oh, I can't wait. Every week it gets better and better. We're finding which ones are pretenders and which ones are contenders. And a lot of teams, this week, a lot of teams that are undefeated playing each other.
I love it, man. Let's get right to one of the biggest games of the day. Right off the bat, Coach, we don't have to wait long. It's a 12 o'clock start today. It's Texas Tech and Utah. A slight favorite for Utah today. If we line this game up, too, points are expected. Coach, from your vantage point, what are the expectations for Texas Tech and Utah?
Yeah, that's my best bet of the day is the over in this football game. Both of them have scored a lot of points. Texas Tech leading the nation. Utah about leading the conference. But both quarterbacks very good. Dampier, a better dual threat quarterback. But I think the key here in this game, Texas Tech went all out in the NIL department. They got the best defensive front in the country off the portal. I think that the difference won't be the quarterback. It'll be the defensive front. That's why I'm leaning to Texas Tech, although a little bit of a dog. And this is going to be a dog day for me. I'm going 3 out of 4 dogs in our top games.
Woo.
Wow, I like the dog too, Coach. So let's talk about Texas Tech. I want to talk potentially about the game plan because you talked about the defense, and they've definitely stepped up. Secondary's playing lights out as well. But when you have an offense that's averaging 387 passing yards per game and rushing for 215, going on the road to a very difficult environment, do you think Joey McGuire pushes tempo with his quarterback Morton that over the past couple of years has been turnover prone, hasn't been that way this year, but you want to throw it early, or you think he goes to the run?
Hey, Joe, you got to go with what got you there. Don't be changing midstream now when you're out there averaging 58 points a game. You're undefeated. Yes, you haven't played anybody, but everything is just right. And remember, you've got a defense to lean on. This is not just a good, it's a chance to be a great defense with a bunch of NFL players. So go out there and do exactly what you've been doing. And I think he's got players probably better than Utah man for man. And so don't change it up. He's well balanced. He's working passes. He's working runs. Just go with what you're doing. That's what you've got you where you are right now.
Talking college football on a Saturday with Coach Terry Bowden. Nothing better here. Nothing better than rivalry games. That's the University of Miami taking on Florida today. A 7:30 kickoff down in Hard Rock Stadium. Coach, a -7.5 point spread here for Miami and a total of 51.5. Is it true that when the rivalries show up, you can throw the records out in the anticipation of these two teams playing tonight? It should be fantastic. What are you looking at?
Well, my Mountaineers showed that in the backyard brawl against Pitt last week, in that they were the dog, and they came out and won the football game against Pitt in a rebuilding year for them. But this is I don't want to say a hatred game, but they don't like each other at Florida and Miami, and they never have liked each other. But this is a game where, to me, Miami's a better football team, and they're playing like a better football team. The quarterback, probably the hottest quarterback in the country as far as the Heisman. But you know what? I do think Florida, the players love their quarterback. He threw 5 picks. Everybody's wondering, will he throw 5 picks again? And if he does, they're going to lose the ball game. But I think he corrects that. I think the players rally around him, and they rally around the coach that they like, who is really on a big hot seat. And I think they play their best. And remember, Florida's talent is almost equal to Miami's talent. Unbelievable talent. Quarterback, not the man they have at Miami. So I think that I'm going to take them in the 6.5 right now. Miami will remain undefeated.
Let's keep it with Billy Napier, Coach, because he's been making the play calls. The offense hasn't been putting up points. To your point, DJ Lagway with 5 picks last week, but 10 points against LSU, 16 points against South Florida. What does he have to do to score points on this Miami defense?
Joe, he's got to quit worrying. He reads he reads the internet. He knows what people are talking about. And I think you play timid. You call plays timid. You're worrying about losing a game that you can win, which is what they did against South Florida in their game there. So I think he's got to go out there and don't worry about it. Go out there, play your best. Your quarterback is your key. I mean, he's the reason you said you came back last year. He's the reason you said you're going to have a great game this year. Go out there, pat him on the back, hug him, put him on the field, let him play football. You got to go out there and call plays confidently because Miami will run you off the field if you don't.
And by the way, if you didn't know, Coach Bowden in the 1990s, Joe Lisi, undefeated season for the Auburn Tigers. Now, how about this, Coach? You in the 1990s thinking about playing Oklahoma, and it would be an SEC game. Probably would have blew your mind at the time, but here we are. An SEC battle, roughly a touchdown favorite. Oklahoma is the home team. The expectations for your Auburn Tigers heading into Oklahoma.
Well, back when I was in the 90s in the SEC West was the toughest division in the country, but we didn't have Oklahoma, we didn't have Texas, and then now it's just so much tougher. And this is another tough one. Auburn going into Oklahoma, but you know what? I just think this game again. It's all about is Mateer better than Jackson Arnold, or is Jackson Arnold better than what they thought he was as Oklahoma? I think the answer is yes and yes. I think Mateer is better. I don't think it's going to come down to just the quarterbacks. I think Auburn's got a very, very good defense. They'll play great. I think the difference will be in their running game. I think they'll run the football. They've got one of the top running backs in the conference. And I like Auburn and the points in this game when they go into Oklahoma.
Very interesting matchup. I'm curious to see how this plays out, Coach. The biggest thing, when you and I spoke all week as well, is turnover margin. Are we concerned about Mateer and this Oklahoma team -5 in turnover margin? He has thrown an interception in 3 straight weeks. Are you worried about that going up against Auburn, or do you still feel Oklahoma pushes tempo to get Jackson Arnold in a track meet?
Yeah, Neil, you know what? I think that's one of the reasons I picked Auburn in the line that they have, because they've had no turnovers. They have not turned the ball over. I think Hugh Freeze is being very conservative in his play call. That's why Arnold has not thrown for very much yardage in the turnovers they've had at Oklahoma. That's the factor. I think the X factor is Brent Venables calling defenses against a quarterback that he knows how Jackson Arnold plays. He knows what he does good, what he does bad. The exotic blitzes that you'll see out of Brent Venables, head coach, and now the defensive coordinator.
Coach, can I squeeze one in real quick with you here? Michigan and Nebraska, we're roughly at a pick-em now. Michigan goes back on the road in a tough environment, but we're waiting on that big win from Nebraska. What do you see today?
You know, I remember back we talked about when Nebraska at home was so good, but they do have an incredibly good home field advantage when they are playing well. But Dylan Raiola, he's got a year under his belt. I think Underwood's still got a few mistakes left in him as a rookie quarterback. I'm going with, in a basic toss-up game, I'm going with Nebraska.
Saturdays with Coach Terry Bowden right here on the SportsGrid Network. Nothing better. If you love Coach Bowden, catch him with Joe Lisi on the Bowden Blitz all week long right here on the SportsGrid Network. Coach, thanks for your time. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to Saturday college football.
Have fun, man.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had marquee wins at some point
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the 3rd and the 4th spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, college football today. Donnie Rightside, Joe Lisi here. The fun is only beginning here.
Yeah.
It feels like we just got started. We're almost an hour in, but one of our favorite segments of the day is the Rat Pack, people. So what the heck is the Rat Pack here? That means the Rats are getting money, the cheese is out there, the games you need to pay attention to that most people don't pay attention to. And don't get caught in the rat trap, Joe.
Well, the Rat Pack are the games like, large favorites, under-the-radar games that nobody cares about.
I love this.
We nailed, I forget the Rat Pack games last week.
Yeah, don't worry about them. We always nail them. It doesn't matter. Every week we ask that question, we swept the board on the Rat Pack because that's what we do. Right?
8 million views, people.
Can't be wrong. Cannot be wrong at this point. And by the way, game number 1 of the Rat Pack, Purdue Notre Dame. I love this game.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Running back position, late in this game, we're still going to be chewing up yards and scoring touchdowns in this one. We'll get to that in just a moment. But a favorite of 25.5, buyback on Purdue, down to 24.5 at some outlets, Joe. 51.5 is the total today. Notre Dame, here it is. I'm telling you right now, buy in, because we'll be sitting here at this desk in 3 months' time, and I'll be like, Joe, what do you think about Miami and Notre Dame this weekend in the college football playoff?
No, not happening.
Yeah, it is.
No shot. They got no shot.
Happening.
They have a shot to win this game. I will say that.
I hope so.
So Purdue comes out. They cover the 21.5 against USC. That was a dead under, though. It was 33-14. That total was 60.5, I believe, last week. Last year with Riley Leonard, I had Riley Leonard to break out on the ground and through the air. 66 zip. They smear, and I understand different team. I get that with Walters, last year's head coach. Barry Odom's the defensive-minded head coach. But I can't take the points with Barry Odom. I would lay it if I had to. Not a game I'm going to be betting, but I would lean to Notre Dame. But I think we get points. C.J. Carr is putting up numbers, and there's no reason to believe that they can't exploit Purdue's secondary. I think they can run on them. I think it is a big game for Jeremiah Love, but I would look Carr potentially 2+ touchdowns. I like the over here.
Whisperer. I think I'm the Notre Dame whisperer, Joe. Last week I said, give me the
C.J.
Carr
They got no
rushing
shot.
and passing.
No shot.
This week, give me running backs here. I got Price for a touchdown today, Love for a touchdown. Parlay that together. It's a plus 111 price. We're going to talk about every single week Notre Dame's ascension in the standings like this, Joe. Look at it.
Not happening.
Boom, boom, boom. Right
there might be there'll be no top 10. Come on, they got
top 10 Notre Dame.
I'll say this:
you get a tattoo at the end of the year within the college football playoffs.
They might have a shot to win this week and cover. They play Arkansas next week. They're a 6.5-point road favorite, depending upon how Arkansas fares against Memphis. Not an easy game going to the Liberty Bowl. That's not going to be an easy game for them. They play USC. They play Boise. They have no marquee win on their resume the rest of the way. The two games that mattered, Miami and Texas A&M, they lost.
Doesn't matter.
Donnie, they got no shot. No shot,
As Dick Vitale used to say, Cupcake City, baby. That's what we got for 10 straight weeks. Get on the Fighting Irish. They're going to make the college football playoff. You heard it from here. I talked to Joe Lisi before the show. Loves Notre Dame to make the college football playoff. Don't hear what he says on the air right now. Let's get to Texas and Sam Houston State. No KC Keeler there anymore as he moved on to Temple. Longo is looking to throw it around today, but I'm telling you, the running, there's not even a running joke. Like, I love Arch Manning again today, man. Over 2.5 touchdowns. Every week, I love him over 2.5 touchdowns. The kid can't throw the football straight. Love him over 2.5 touchdowns passes.
So here's the thing. Texas has been struggling covering lines. They've been methodical, ugly. I love this game, but not from a side perspective. This is one of my better bets with some of the other games. Over, Donnie, 51.5. We've seen Arch struggle and not come in consistent. I think it's a fast start for Texas in this matchup. You might get it in the first quarter. Here's the other factor. The worst third down offense, Phil Longo and Sam Houston State, 13% on third downs. What does that mean? 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Texas short field. The 51.5, Texas might get it on their own. You could get this game into the 60, so I lean Texas, but I love the total over 51.5.
No handoffs, people. How about this other rack pack game? Temple versus Georgia Tech. Temple at home in a week that Oklahoma might overlook. Temple smashed them at Lincoln Financial Field. They, talking about Georgia Tech, 24.5-point favorites over the Temple Owls. Come on now.
Gutty win. We like Georgia Tech with the points last week. They pull it out in dramatic fashion. They're rushing the field. Now here comes lowly Temple. We saw this line 23.5, 24.5, 23.5 late, and then they brought it back up to a key number of 24.5. I like Temple here. I'm not suggesting they push Georgia Tech.
Let's go.
But Georgia Tech, you might get about 5,000 fans in the stands for Temple. They had their emotional win. Classic letdown spot. Temple moved the football against Oklahoma. A very good Oklahoma defense. Again, I think they could score. Georgia Tech wins, but give me the Owls with the points.
How about a quick Rat Pack special? North Carolina, UCF. Bill Belichick on the road is a 7-point dog. They're biting right now.
I would take the points, but I think Scott Frost and this offense, I think both offenses could score points. Give me the over in the bounce house.
The rise of Bill Belichick on Chapel Bill and Chapel Hill. You can hear it right now at this point. You know what else you can hear? Hour number 2 on deck. Texas Tech points. Are we going to be throwing burritos on the field? What are we doing here?
They don't do that in Utah. They have Boise State. They have Arkansas. They have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had
Notre
marquee
Dame.
wins at some point
I don't
last
care. They
year.
lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.